Good morning. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and welcome to our show today. It is the 27th of January, 2025. And like I said, I hope everybody had a good weekend. We had a lot going on this weekend, that's for sure. An amazing amount of things going on, things that needed to happen as far as the control of the border and such. I am really watching this, not just with celebration, because I am of firm belief that we have to carry this football all the way across in the end zone and spike it before we start celebrating. Right now, I'm watching what's going on, and there are a lot of things that are coming out that I think we really need to be mindful of. First of all of the killing of the chickens that have happened across the United States. I posted this morning to TikTok and all my other social media how many millions of dollars these chicken facilities, these poultry facilities have been paid. And I mean, it's a lot for the destruction of these birds. So basically what they've done is just said, hey, we got bird flu. Let's kill the food supply. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. And paying for it. Not only that, I'm digging up some stuff on Jocelyn Benson, who is our failed, fraudulent Secretary of State who botched the elections in an incredible way, has decided to come out and run for governor of the state of Michigan. Are you kidding me? So it is time to dig up so much dirt on these people who have violated their oaths of office, who have refused to run a good election, and who now think they're going to just step in to be governor of the state of Michigan. I think we got a lot of questions to ask, as well as their new little front runner that they want to announce, Dugan or Duggan, who is now also running for governor. How in the world, if you have to work up your way through the ranks to run for office, it wasn't by the people. They earned it from the inside. And I think every one of us needs to get a lot smarter with this and say, wait a minute. How is it and why is it that you got to pay your dues at the lower level in order to be approved by the establishment to make sure that you'll listen and do what you're told to get into a higher office? Fundamentally disagree with this, disapprove it. Everything's wrong. And I am going to just be railing on this from now until we get this nation fixed. Morning, Vicky. How you doing?
Good morning. Fine, thanks.
Yeah, we were talking before we got on just a little bit about some of the nonsense that we're seeing out there. And you know what? We have not won yet. We have a feeling, we've been given a feeling that we've won. We haven't even remotely won. We've got some things going in the right direction. However, I'm not doing the victory lap until I know that we have restored this. And the only thing that I'm looking at right now is what's going to happen to restore and go back and prosecute those involved in the 2020 election. We cannot go forward. Dead stop, full stop, if we don't deal with the crimes committed at that 2020 election. And see, in the 2024 election, my big concern with this is, oh yeah, it feels great. We got President Trump in. That's fantastic. I backed him because they broke the law in 2020. I backed him because of that reason. And I like his policies. I'm going to tell you that I like it. However, we are going to have to go back all the way through history, nullify those things, such as the treaties, which is what we talk about in the morning when Vicky's on, as well as the unconstitutional laws, mandates, and departments. It looks like we're kind of at a good start. However, we aren't even remotely close to being done with this yet. What's your opinion on this?
I totally agree. And I will say you can't solve a problem unless you understand the full problem, the magnitude of the problem. And our problem did not start with the Trump administration, with the Biden, with Obama, not even with George Walker Bush. You know, our problem. Well, let me tell you, I just found a new report. It was published in April of 1988 by the Carnegie Commission, and it was a presidential transition report. title of the report is New Thinking and American Defense Technology. Okay, now during that period of time, we didn't know this as people out here, but insiders to the government did apparently, that the Cold War was over. And they started thinking about defense for the 21st century. And the idea that they came up with was big power war is over. And now we are going to move to a technology-based defense system. And that's what this new thinking is. New thinking, actually, I wrote this down so I'd remember. New thinking is technologically enabled totalitarianism.
I'm kind of right there with you, because it's like, all right, we got President Trump in. He's everybody is very excited about this. If we don't get these elections right, the tools are in place to have an absolute monster step up in the next election, which the 2024 election was still a rigged election. I don't care what anybody says. We didn't get rid of the corruption that was there. We just overcame it with having enough votes to get President Trump in. But look at all the down ballot candidates, and look at the ones who stepped down and just said, oh, sorry, I guess we lost. We're going to go away. And nobody has said, we're going to have to go after these elections, because just because we think we won one cycle doesn't mean that we're not going to lose the entire war of the Republic by not finishing the job.
Well, you remember in 2001, the hanging chads, you know, that's when it really started. And the objective of that dialectic, and I know it was a dialectic, was to automate, bring technology into the elections. That's when the election commission was stood up, and, you know, they did studies, and, oh yeah, we need to modernize our election system. Well, gee whiz, so easy to cheat with technology. And if you think about, you know, like you're voting at the precinct, what is that? It's like, you know, 4 or 5 old ladies that had no idea about anything to do with technology. And even if they did, you know, it wouldn't matter, because it's the technology that is the problem.
Oh, and man, you bring it up to them and they lose their minds. It's like you didn't do anything personally wrong here. They're way above your pay grade where they were cheating on this. It's in the software. It's in all of this, you know. And so the people that are spiking the football because we got our guy in, that's great in a rigged system. How long is this going to last? And, you know, we need to go back. The only thing this is going to fix this is to honestly take care of the criminals, because criminals that are left in place, they're going to keep doing it. And I'm hoping that President Trump and the good guys, I'm going to say it's the good guys that are in, because it has to be a bunch of people. There's no way that one person could do this. It had to be a structure. When I was in DC, it looks like the FBI is completely vacant. It looks like there's nobody there. Like the rest of us, if we had to comply with building codes or something, and we had that building, we would be off with our heads. There's no way that we would make it through that. Well, the FBI building looks like a piece of crap. It looks like it's built, you know, it's kind of almost boarded up. There's a few lights on, but it needs some power washing at the very minimal. You know what I mean? It's just not okay. And, you know, the other thing that I'm watching, just so everybody knows, is we need to watch out for, and I'm going to read this, the nonsense that's gone on with the, you know, we can be shipping back all the illegals and all this sort of stuff, which is fantastic. But you know what I want to see? The fundamental thing that I want to see is all of these NGOs like Catholic Services, Lutheran Services, Bethany Services, whatever services that are out there, that we're getting paid $400 to $800 a night. or more, plus a $14,000 subsidy to these people in their little money laundering scheme to help move them and fund the invasion. Every single one of them, or the people that took $400 or whatever they took a night or a month to house them in their homes. Same thing. Yeah. So I was reading 8 U.S. Code 1324 this morning. Any person who encourages or induces an alien to come to, enter, or reside in the United States, knowing or in reckless disregard for the fact that such coming to, entry, or residence is or will be in violation of the law shall be punished as provided. Imprisoned not more than 5 years. In the case of a violation in which the offense was done for the purpose of commercial or financial gain, Catholic services, Bethany and Lutheran services, we're talking you here, imprisoned for not more than 10 years. In the case of violation during in relation to which a person causes serious bodily injury to or places the jeopardy life of any person in prison not more than 20 years. All the judges, we're talking to you who let these people out. In the case of a violation resulting in the death of any person, be punished by death or imprisonment for any term of years or for life. Judges, we're talking you who let them out and let them go out and commit crimes and such. I mean, I'm sitting here going, this needs to be a complete and utter sweep of all the players that took place or took part in treason and invasion of the United States of America and took money.
You know what?
Paid,
you know what the problem is that they've signed so many international agreements. It gives the government the ability to choose the law that they want to follow. Do they want to follow the law that comes about because of a treaty? Or do they want to follow our domestic law? Obviously, the invasion of our country, they were not following our domestic law.
No, they were getting paid off. All of them were getting paid. Someone along the way, every single one of them took a payoff in this little scheme. And that includes Congress. That includes that because they enabled it. They allowed it to happen. It happened at the governor's levels. It happened with the state legislature levels because any of these states could have stepped up and said, we're done right now, and protected their border. It's the duty of the governor to absolutely ensure that. And the legislature just said, oh, no problem. We're going to have sanctuary cities for these poor, unfortunate souls. Well, yeah, they probably were poor, unfortunate souls because they were being used by pawns, by these pukes in our government to money launder.
Yeah. Well, there is a whole nest of vipers in our communities, and they are the ones that are engaged in refugee resettlement or migrant resettlement.
Oh, it's an industry. They're making big money on this.
Big money. And they're the ones that keep the politicians in office, and that's what I mean about choice of law. On September 11th, 2001, Colin Powell, who was Secretary of State at the time, he was down in, I think it was Peru, signing the Inter-American Democratic Charter. And what that agreement is, or that charter, is kind of like the cap on what I'm going to call from now on the Soviet Union of the Americas. It is the continent-wide governing structure that is sitting over the top of our country. And they're the ones that are making the decision. And if you want to research it, start with the Organization of American States that's down in South America, because they're the ones, it's a 34-nation organization. They're the ones that work with ECLAC, which is part of the United Nations, the regional organization under the United Nations. And they're the ones that are setting the policies that our government is abiding by. They have totally disenfranchised the American voter. Now they try to keep it.
Count. Our elections don't matter at this point in time.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And it's because of this international edifice that has been built over the top of our nations. And they are the ones that are setting policy. And our politicians, they can stand up and, blah, blah, America first and all the rest of that crap. But they are still bound by these international agreements.
Okay, so with that said, anybody wants to impress us all a whole lot right now, let's go in and start nullification. And I mean nullification of the treaties. And I think I'm gonna give President Trump some real kudos on this, in that he basically told Colombia what was gonna be. And they sent a bunch of illegals down there, and they were going to turn the planes around, I believe. And he's like, no, not going to happen. Sanctions, sanctions, sanctions. Boo hoo, you're done. And all of a sudden, they started changing their tunes. That needed to happen. And I mean, this needs to happen all over the world, right? No apologies, no negotiation. You take these people back, and there's no discussion on this. We're done, right? And furthermore, really, Mexico basically waged war on the United States of America by passing illegals through. That's a violation of international law. They can't do that. They can harbor them themselves, but to pass them through is not okay. Except for, which brings us to the La Paz Treaty.
Yes, yeah. So it's really not clear what the La Paz Treaty was signed with Mexico in 1983. And what they did is to create an international zone on the border.
They gave away our land, and that is what she's saying.
Well, they gave away our sovereignty in addition to the land. They made it an international zone under the management of the Secretary of the Environmental Protection Agency, the Mexican equivalent. And of course, they're working together, but who is managing the deal is the State Department as oversight to a treaty. And so
all bad things happen in the State Department. All you got to do is look at Hillary Clinton and Benghazi.
Oh, if I were in charge for a day, first thing I would do is just blow up the State Department totally, fire everybody. We're not the building down.
Like get ordinance over there. We're saying shut it down.
Yes, absolutely. Fire everybody, because the State Department is where all of these international agreements originate and where they are managed and maintained. And so I think the State Department is a traitorous, treasonous organization. And they should be eliminated.
That most of these departments need to be leveled, just be done with it, abolish them, nullify it all, because they're all unconstitutional. And they're making laws. It's supposed to be the legislature that is making the laws. No, it's these unconstitutional agencies are literally writing policy and law, and they're doing it through said regulation, but they're literally writing laws.
Yeah, and the administrative state, the administrative system. And the same administrative system that exists at the federal level is also embedded in the states. So you have this whole administrative system defined that is really running our country. And according to policies that we did not vote for, that in many cases we don't even know about. So when the EPA comes and says, you can't use this water, they shut down your ranching operation because they prohibit you from using the water. You're one person against this monolithic totalitarian governing system that most people don't even know about.
Yeah, they just fill out the papers. Something comes to them and they fill out the papers. Now, I don't know if you remember, but Byron Township hit a tax bill on us to try to seize our land. And I accused them of that right in the public. I'm not backing down from this. It took 4 trips down there to get a tax bill. Guess what? We found another one came in just recently. And they said we were up on our taxes. We've got another one that came in that was said it was in delinquency of some sort. And we have a written statement that said we had no taxes. So they're literally hiding this. This is what's going on all the way across America, unfortunately, people. And they know what they're doing. There's something I want to read to you this morning that it's just going to blow your mind. I couldn't believe this. We're going to have to really look into some of these candidates and where they stand on things and who they're in bed with. Who are they all in bed with? So we've got a couple of let's just say developers in the state of Michigan, one called Stephen Ross and the other one, Dan Gilbert. Stephen, and I'm going to I'll read you the beginning of this, right? And it gets kind of worse, but Stephen Ross and Jocelyn Benson are connected through professional and financial ties. Jocelyn Benson served as the CEO of the Ross Initiative in Sports and Equality, which was founded by Stephen Ross in 2015. RISE is a nonprofit organization aimed at improving race relations through sports, and Benson transitioned from her role as Dean of Wayne State University Law School to lead this initiative. And by the way, this is where the money went through from Ron Weiser, as well as how they're bringing the World Economic Forum. And this is all connected, guys. It's all connected. And their headquarters in Michigan. Stephen Ross has financially supported Benson's endeavors. He and Dan Gilbert donated $5 million each to Wayne State University Law School to establish funds named after Benson, acknowledging her contributions before she stepped down as dean to join RISE, working for Ross. Additionally, posts on X suggest that Ross has financially contributed to Benson's campaign. Those specifics from these posts are not detailed to confirm. Benson's husband, Ryan Fredericks, has worked for a company affiliated with Stephen Ross, specifically joining related companies which Ross chairs after leaving his position as Detroit's chief development officer. The move was highlighted as an opportunity for Fredericks to lead significant projects in Detroit, including Detroit Center of Innovation. The connections illustrate the network of professional, financial, and familial links between Stephen Ross, Jocelyn Benson, centered around their shared interest in education, philosophy, or philanthropy, and urban development in Michigan, said by them. Okay. Now, when we look at the connections and what happened between them and how that land it came back to the World Economic Forum, I'm going to tell you what. These people are all in bed together. And not only did they botch the election and rig it from the inside, and oh, by the way, I had a court date this week, and one of my lawsuits is actually interesting, and it's going to continue to become more interesting right now and probably lead right to the top on what was going on there.
Well, let me tell you what is probably
Go ahead.
At the World Economic Forum, Larry Taunton attended a session and he reported on it. And so I went back and I found that session. And what they're advocating for is ecosystem personhood. Now, you know what corporate personhood is, right?
Yeah, it's completely should be abolished. And that was Citizens United, makes corporations, it gives them the right of a person, which I can tell you right now, they're going to try to make him be able to vote at some point in time.
Actually, it goes back even farther than that. I think it goes back to the 19th century, the 1800s.
Really?
Yeah, when the idea of corporate personhood came about. And what that means is that the courts consider a corporation to be a person, just like you, just like me. You know, they have rights to free speech or whatever. Now, we used to have laws that regulated corporations, but over time, those laws have been eroded. And so now what the World Economic Forum is proposing is ecosystem personhood. so that
Okay.
the trees can sue you in court.
Can the trees in Michigan that have been clear cutted sue the DNR? That'd be outstanding.
Well, it not really,
Tried.
because yeah, if we had laws in this country, we could say to the corporations, you cannot clear cut, period. But it doesn't, but because they gave corporate personhood to corporations, they have a piece of land, they can do any damn thing they want. So I understand the idea of ecosystem personhood, but it is the worst idea that could ever possibly be proposed. I don't know if you remember in the 1980s when there was the environmental groups sued a farmer. Actually, I think he might have gone to jail or something, but he lost his farm because he ran over some damn field mouse. And the environmental groups said, oh, that was a rare field mouse. It should be a protected species. Well, under the guise of being a protected species, they can get everybody off the land. And the thing is, with genetic engineering today, they can create endangered species every single day.
Oh my gosh, I never even thought about that they can actually create them at will. I mean, that wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah. So this idea of ecosystem personhood means that they could sue us to, take our land away, to remove us from the land, to protect the ecosystem.
Well, the DNR in Michigan already has that right. They can come on your property basically without a warrant and do whatever they want. And there's not a thing you can do. They have way too much power. And 4.6 million acres that they land, they're clear cutting. I saw it with my own eyes. That's not protecting it. That's pillaging our resources. And every single one of them needs to be arrested and prosecuted individually, as well as that entire organization absolutely abolished. And the governor held responsible for this. That absolutely needs to happen. But that's in my dreams here.
Yeah. Well, the war between environmentalists and business and people has been going on for a long time. I don't know if you remember in Oregon, the spotted owl.
Oh yeah.
And that environmental terrorist group, what they were doing is putting nails, spikes into trees, so that when the lumberjack went to cut down the tree, he hits a nail and, he gets injured or killed. And that was all to save the alleged endangered spotted owl. Well, they found out spotted owl was not endangered at all. But these people that were spiking the trees, they were environmental terrorists.
Well, I got to tell you, animals are smarter than people. If there's a threat coming, they will in fact move.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. They kind of move. I mean, no matter what anybody says, I've worked outside, I've been outside, and, I'll spend a ton of time outside, and animals are smarter than people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
something happens to go. Did I ever tell you the 5 turtle story? Oh, you'll think this is funny. So I was on a job out, and we were in Connecticut. Connecticut's a difficult place to work because they're not like necessarily the same mindset as say Midwesterners. We're pretty friendly and such, and it's a different culture out east. And so we had to go into the job trailer for turtle training. I kid you not, we had to have turtle training. So we go into this trailer, and I'm already fine, fantastic. This is another waste of space. I'm looking out into the forest there. I don't even know how many thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of forest I'm looking at. All right. So, and this is a very small path through this forest. I'm pretty extra sure that those little turtles could waddle their way out of danger if there was any danger, which is the question asked. So I go into the trail, and this guy comes in for turtle training, and he's like, First thing out of his mouth is, I gotta tell you guys. And of course, I can't shut up. I'm not going to shut up when I see something stupid. I can't do it. So he's like, these turtles are so endangered. He said, I parked my truck and I walked in to the trailer 30 feet and I saw 5 of them. And I'm sitting there going, blink, blink, blink. And I said to him, I said, how the hell can these turtles be in danger if you walk 30 feet and you saw 5 of them? And everybody's like, shut up, Donna, shut up, Donna. I'm like, I can't. I mean, this is insanity.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
If
you know that
the EPA training, it's just nonsense.
Yeah. Well, the Bundy Ranch in Nevada situation, that was connected to turtles also. There was a land down south that Harry Reid wanted to sell or had sold to, I believe it was Chinese investors or something. But anyway, that's the territory, the habitat of these big desert turtles. So the EPA, I guess it was the EPA, they decided that they were going to relocate those turtles, catch all the turtles they could and relocate them, which is really freaking stupid because they are desert turtles. You can't just pick up a species and move it farther north, but that's what they intended to do. And some of that property, I think, was either close to or connected to the Bundy Ranch, the land that they lease, from the government for rangeland for their cattle. Anyway, your turtle story just reminded me of that.
Yeah, it's a land grab. They do it all the time. We were down in Nebraska and this old guy was down there and we had to go through something for the lesser prairie chicken. This guy had like 20,000 acres. He hadn't seen human beings in probably 25 years. Okay. And we go down there for this and people from the government are all involved and they're all, kissing up to this guy because they want to go through his land. This guy just wanted free bulldozing. That's what it was all about. And I had to sit there and I'm like, how much more of our tax dollars are being wasted on this kind of nonsense and nobody's calling them out for it, and they were all involved.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, even when you call out, who's listening, who understands? I sometimes I think the people in our country must be the dumbest people in the entire world because they buy into all of this baloney, like what you just said, But this started with the environmentalists a long time ago. And the environmentalists kind of made a deal, with our government and with corporations such that, they joined forces and that they sue. It's called sue and settle. Environmental groups sue, government settles, and we lose.
Every time. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of those people on the ground they're all paid provocateurs. The scope of how many people are paid provocateurs or straight up feds, I mean, look at J6, is shocking. And you know what? I got to say, President Trump in office, I love this because I'm even saying more of this. It's like they're feds. A lot of the people that are in the political parties or the grassroots organizations, said grassroots, they're being run by political operatives. Guaranteed.
Yeah, well, you remember Jesse Ventura when he became governor of Minnesota? He told the story about, being called down to the basement and there were a group of guys down there who said, we run this state. Well, we found out later it was the CIA. The CIA is running the state. Now, how does that happen? Well, I've studied the transportation system. And you know how in the Constitution, I think it says the feds can only operate in forts and ports and things like that. Well, they defined intermodal commerce zones that occur at transportation hubs. They defined those as inland ports. As a port, that is international territory. As international territory, the CIA can operate, right?
Absolutely.
So that's how they did it. That's how they have infiltrated our government. I actually, when I was trying to figure out what this whole system was, I wrote a report on how the United States became a land bridge between two bodies of water, because that's what the deal is. Okay, now I'm sure you've seen the map of the Mexican port networks in South Mexico, right? And they come up. There's like 5 inland ports. They hit the international zone on the border, and then proceed on through these transportation hubs that then become ports, like the Kansas City Smart Port. Now, this is a whole strategically designed system, and in order to understand what's happening in our country, you have to understand how our territory has been internationalized in this port system, and how the technology flows from one port to another port under the guise of trade facilitation, right? So if you look at the whole thing as a fully designed system, then you can see how the infiltration works. You can see how the treason flows, so to speak.
Well, and right now we know that a lot of the kids that are coming in here that they're trafficking in the United States are coming from Guatemala. That's a pretty serious situation that we have down there.
Well,
and then of course they get an inland port system and they ship them all over the United States.
Yeah. Well, something occurred to me the other day. Under these international agreements, what they're doing is they're harmonizing our laws. Well, maybe prostitution is legal in Guatemala. Maybe they don't have laws to protect children.
Our kids getting married at like 8 years old.
Yeah. So we, under these agreements, our laws, we have to drop down to the lowest common denominator in these agreements, because Guatemala could sue us for not allowing business that's legal in Guatemala. So it basically cannibalizes our laws that are based on civility. We don't allow
this. That's a great word to use in this situation too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't allow children to be raped and molested and put in whorehouses
or cannibalized.
Yeah, I mean, you name the uncivilized horror, and under these international agreements, we can be sued for it for not allowing business that's legal in their country to be done in this country.
Well, look at the blood transfers from young kids to adults that started a long time ago, but how that really came to the forefront with companies like, say, Ambrosia and such. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? I mean, once they justify it, I mean, all sorts of bad stuff is always a slippery slope, and then it's like, well, what do? Keep like a baby factory and tap into them and say it's for their best good? It becomes a well, this is how I feel, and so we're just going to do that and we're going to justify it. Same thing happened with Oprah down in Brazil. I mean, John of God finally thank God Almighty got convicted of keeping girls from the ages of 10 on up, and he was getting them pregnant and selling the babies, and then they disposed of the girls, probably organ transfer or and such when they were 18.
Oh my God.
And he was convicted, and Oprah was like down there just pushing him away, her little buddy John of God down there, which tells me an awful lot about the connections there. And I think she was up in Grand Rapids too when Tudor Dixon got launched through our DV up here with the Econ Club. Wow, the connections are just amazing.
Yeah, well, it all has to do with the systems that have been negotiated and put into international agreements and then implemented in our country. And of course, they're not going to tell the American people what they've done, because what they've done is actually treason against our country.
And we know where that goes too.
Yeah, but they're making so much money on it that I guess it's worth it to them to sell our country down the river.
Well, and the people that take the payoff, that are Americans too. How many people have taken the payoff to sell their land to these developers and to, say, China or something like that, or the corporations, these big foreign corporations? I'm sorry, but that's also quite problematic, I guess. Very problematic.
And I just heard, I forget who it was, but they're saying they're still looking for foreign direct investment. So they've allowed other countries to invest in our country. Now, what's the insanity of that? Allowing communist China to invest in our country, set up a business in our country. I mean, that makes all nation states businesses. And if all nation states are businesses, then you are a slave. And if you think anything different, think again, because corporations, which is kind of what they've turned the United States into, they don't have a special class of people called citizens. They have employees, which is the same thing as being a slave under a totalitarian system, which is what we have. We have a technocratic totalitarian system, and you are a slave.
Well, even if you look back in the Middle Ages, the actual slaves or serfs in the Middle Ages were treated better than what the American people are right now. It's crazy to me that people don't understand that we are above an 85% tax rate, and now roll in on inflation, and we're going backwards, guys. There's no two ways about it. And I don't understand why people don't get this, because of all the discretionary taxes and such. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on and on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when you add them all up, there are a lot of hidden taxes that people don't even know that they're paying.
Fees become tax.
But having said that, I do not believe in corporations being able to do business tax-free. They always say that corporations just pass their costs along to the consumer, which may or may not be true. It depends on whether or not a corporation's product is optional. But if a corporation has an essential service, then, like a hospital, then they should be regulated as to what they can charge. Right now with hospitals, it's, sky's the limit. They can charge whatever they damn well choose.
Oh yeah. It's and there's no accountability to it. Like, okay, here we go. CEO Mary Barra's 2022 compensation is $22 million. And I'm looking for the corporate welfare that she took in for promising 4,000 jobs. It was close to 200, and let's see, net worth. She has a net worth over $250 million. How does that feel, all you union workers out there, that she's sitting on the top with $250 million? But we're going to go back to that, because she took in, I think it was $286 million, promising 4,000 jobs. do the math on that, people. And there was no requirement that the job stayed in the United States of America. So what did they do?
Right. Well,
Right down to Mexico.
Our states, our government has been buying jobs from corporations for at least the last 20 years. Now, they signed these trade agreements so that, corporations could leave the country, and then we're supposed to buy back the jobs. Give me a freaking break,
Yeah.
The whole structure, the whole administrative structure of the United States has been perverted and corrupted. And people need to do whole brain thinking, absolutely whole brain thinking about the entire structure and say, is this a world where people can live and be free? And if people can't live and be free, then what the hell are we doing? What are we doing?
Right.
Do we have a world where just, business and these psychopaths, make $100 million a year sitting at the top of a corporation selling jobs to us? I mean, come on.
And taking the money from off of our coffers. I mean, how many small businesses are getting this kind of money coming in, like they took for GM? Tell me how many small businesses have been put out of business through their policies. Whitmer's the queen of destroying business in Michigan with the help of her little squire Nessel and the Joker Benson, who's now running for office. I mean, this is a joke. This is a totally joke. And the people that are sitting in these government offices who are also taking the money and enabling this, they're all part of it. The public fund, you're not just elected, they're appointed. There are people who took a job if you're participating in that, guess what? You're part of the problem. I would probably walk away at this point in time because justice is coming. Curtis posted something. Michigan allowed Holtec International to own and control our nuclear energy facilities. Look up Holtec International, Ukraine-based in Kiev, Ukraine. It was pre-planned to transfer ownership of the Palisades to Holtec 2 years before it was decommissioned. This is part of the Green New Deal, aka 2030, to further erode our energy independence. Absolutely. Yeah. We need to be smarter. And so, like right now, watching this is all great. The news tells us we've got to deport the illegal aliens. The invasion is upon us. It is. But who are the people that funded it and enabled this? And are we going to finish the job, or are we just going to use people who, some of them were guilty, some of them were pawned. They were taking kids. They were promising people things that they probably had no knowledge of. But there were also gang members that were involved in this. You got Santa Muerte and all the rest of these cartels that were shipped in here to do damage to America. I'm of the opinion, and I'm just going to say it. Why are we sending the drug cartels back home? Why don't we just finish the job right here? There's no two ways about it. We send some of these people back home. They're going to turn right around, laugh at us, go international zone. We're right back. See if you can stop it. Tom Holman is the only appointment that I feel really good about from President Trump at this point in time. The rest of them, I'm kind of sitting back going, not so sure that there's a reason to spike the football yet. I'm hoping, but who is it? Howard Lutzke? Is that the Lutnick? Howard Lutnick.
That was the first one that really upset me when I heard that Howard Lutnick had been appointed to lead the transition team. I about came unglued because Howard Lutnick was CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald that was in the World Trade Center. And some articles have said that Cantor Fitzgerald was really like the target, of the first airplane. Of course, I don't believe that airplanes flew into the Trade Center anyway.
No. Not the way they said it did.
It was a perfect controlled demolition for 3 buildings on that day. And most people don't even know that there was a third building. And the third building was World Trade Center 7, that was a government building.
The dumbest lies that these people take, all you got to do is take just a few minutes to think this through, and you can, basically destroy their lies. Okay. How in the world are you going to find the 2 passports from the terrorists, or however many that there were, within several hours in a complete city filled with paper, and somehow this fireball that went off, the passports survived it, and they found them, and they knew right away who did it. It's absurd. It's as dumb as the lie that gas and oil are fossil fuels. Thank you so very much to the Rockefellers. That's also a lie. I was telling somebody that this week. Think about how stupid this lie is, really, when you take a minute. How many millions of barrels of oil are we pumping out every day, right? Think about this. How many dinosaurs would have had to kick the bucket, die, compress, and decompose to make that big of an oil deposit to pull that much oil off? There's no sense to this whatsoever. And most of it's under bedrock. So there you go. It doesn't matter how old this rock was. There was nothing walking on the earth at that level ever. So the whole thing was a lie. It was just to convince people of the law of scarcity and make us all panic. Fear, fear, fear.
Fear, fear, fear. That's right. Yeah. You said something that reminded me, and now I forgot what it was. But yeah, everything that they say to us, the media, it's all lies. It's all cover stories, for whatever it is that's going on behind the scenes, either in our government or corporations. Our government is partnered with corporations, and it had to do with the new thinking and the conversion of in the 1980s, they said, like I said, the end of great power war. We no longer need a defense industrial base that builds these war machines. So they decided instead, this Carnegie report, New Thinking in American Defense Technology, the new mechanism of defense would be the technocratic tyranny, computer systems, total information awareness, total domain awareness, so that nothing moves without the government or corporations seeing it. And so that's where you get the corruption of government, because with technology, you can game the system. And one thing that went wrong with the FBI is that they partnered with corporations and our local governments in an organization called InfraGard, right? Infrastructure protection. And so in a surveillance system that is technologically enabled, you can track everything that moves. And they can know within a community who's making waves in a community against the technocratic tyranny that's being implemented. They know who they are. They can send out covert teams to take them out. Simple. No problem whatsoever. So that's the way our military has been transformed into being the technocratic enforcers. But it's all behind the scenes so that you don't see it. Now, what people need to do, there was a guy named Thomas P.M. Barnett. In the early 2000s, he did several presentations on the new American way of war, the Pentagon's new map. And what his proposal was at the time was that the military, the army, be split into 2 forces. You have the administrative force and the system admin force, and then the military part of the force. Okay, so if you have your army working on what is a technocratic, totalitarian system, and nobody really knows about it, nobody really understands it. The only reason I understand it because I was a systems analyst and I was in technology, and I do understand systems and I understand how they're built, which is why I've worked on this. But go on C-SPAN, watch the videos of Thomas P.M. Barnett. Now, he was working with Admiral Art Zabrowski. Admiral Art Zabrowski is the father of net-centric warfare. So what have we been talking about here? We've been talking about net-centric warfare, network-centric warfare. And after 9/11, both Barnett and Zabrowski were brought into the DOD by Donald Rumsfeld to come up with a strategy for military transformation to the new American way of war. And the new American way of war are these technocratic totalitarian systems.
And I think there's a good point here is that all of those people that are on, oh, yay, Republicans, yay, Democrats and such, you better be careful, because if they really were what they said they were, they would be screaming yet about that 2020 election. And I'm not seeing anybody fighting it. So we're being set up for the next election right now. As we speak, we are being set up for that next election to become one of the largest threats, I think, in the history of the United States, unless we absolutely carry that football across the line and spike it. And that means a little more than just the beginning. And I'm going to give you that. This has been a great week. President Trump has done an amazing thing this week. I'm not going to take it away. But we as the American people cannot sit back and say, yay, we won, let's go have a beer and not have a beer every day until the next election comes. No, this is our time to work. This is our time to get educated and to make sure that if we're needed for help, we don't just show up to elections. We have to be ready all the time to show up when there's a real threat that we need to participate in defending this nation. And every single one of us should have taken that oath of defending this nation against any threats, both foreign and domestic. And that domestic is a big word right there, because right now our schools are being run by Marxist organizations, the colleges, every part of it, and people are taking payoffs. I really hope when President Trump said we got them all, that was past tense. Think about that. When he said it, it's past tense. It's not we're getting them all. It's we got them all. And I'm really hoping that certainly God is behind this, and that they got them all when, and we're playing this out to clean this out. But even if we do that, you know what, people, every one of us is going to have to step forward, and we're going to have to take a role and play a role and be helpful. If we want self-governance, that means self has to be involved in this, not sit back and go, yay, sports team. Yay, sports team. I hope they're doing a great job. I'll show up to vote for you. No.
Yeah, all competition. Get excited. I think that's what when I was a kid, sports were important, but they were not that important. But they've built up this whole idea of compete. And people have been conditioned, propagandized into thinking that life is a competition. Well, if you're thinking that way, then you've got a real serious problem, because our lives are not about competition. If you think it is, then you're just a slave. You're like the gladiators. Remember in old Rome they had the Colosseum, and they would pit.
Eat them alive. We're going to throw you out there and be eaten alive, and let's see who survives, because we want to see people compete and be hurt and all that sort of thing. When do we stop this and go into our communities and say, we've got some really hurting communities. These people need someone to sit with them when they're sad, to bring them food, to get the work done on their houses. How many people know older people who can't work on their houses, and they are really alone because their kids are too busy for them, because they're running their children around all these freaking sporting events so they can make it into the indoctrination clubs, and they still can't balance a checkbook. Trust me, I work with a lot of people that are in their 20s, and you would be shocked some of the stories that I have. One time we walked into one place and they called and they go, help us, we have flies. I have a bunch of income property. I'm like, okay. So I go over there and I'm looking around, and of course they hadn't taken the garbage out, so their back porch was loaded with garbage. I'm like, well, I guess the first thing I do is get rid of your garbage and probably the flies would be gone. And they're like, what are we going to do? And I said, well, you can always buy something like a can of insecticide or get a fly swatter. That would be my first pass after you remove the garbage.
Or a fly zapper.
Yeah, they're freaking out. And I had one of my sons with me who actually is he's a big guy. And he's like, I got this, Mom. Takes his flip-flops off and he starts whacking the flies and getting rid of them. And I'm like, it was a glorious moment to see somebody that was almost half their age be able to, because he was a teenager, be able to outsmart him with a flip-flop.
That's pathetic.
It's kind of funny, isn't it? And then God help us if we have to change a light bulb, or arrange trash pickup or anything like that. God help us all, So,
oh my God.
It's funny. I know. Or please don't come up to Michigan right now if you're not from Michigan and you don't know enough not to wear pumps going to work. Pray to God that somebody like me has a big diesel truck that can pull you out, who is actually dressed for the weather, because it's going to be painful. So anyhow.
Oh, God, that reminds me of a story. I have to tell this story on myself.
Okay, I've got Jean backstage, and so let me bring Jean out a minute, and you can tell the story to both of us. Hey, Jean, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Okay, Vicky, tell your story.
Okay. Well, I was up in Alaska contracting. I did a contract in Juneau. Now, Juneau, the only way to get to Juneau is either fly in or a boat,
or ride a moose or something, it's like.
Well, you can't even do that because it's kind of like, I don't know if you call it a fjord.
I'm joking.
But yeah. But anyway, who became my husband and I needed to go back to Anchorage. And so, we took the car, rode the ferry over to the mainland. I think it's to Haines or something like that. But, and it's kind of like winter. And we drove all the way to Tok, Alaska. And my car just kind of froze. And I had no clothes at all, for Alaska in the dead of winter. I mean, we're like stuck. And finally we had to charter a little plane to take us back to Anchorage. But, the incompetence that you just talked about, I was there. I was about 30 years old or so, driving across Alaska and didn't even have, like a warm coat or bunny boots or not a darn thing, no gloves, nothing, You'd have thought I was driving across Idaho or something,
And Idaho's far enough north. I mean, I would say like Texas, you're out there in Texas garb and such, and praying to God for somebody that's got a diesel truck to pull you out or something, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I just love you to pieces. You are so amazing, and the work you've done has been such a service to the United States with all the work you've done on the treaties. And I just want to really thank you for everything that you do to share that with us, because you're one of the most inspiring people who have actual knowledge, who have done actual research that I've met along this journey. And just amazing how you've documented this all. I don't think I've ever seen anybody that is that that has done the documentation that you've done in an organized manner on websites so that it's right there. The proof is there and what happened. So, and I appreciate that so much.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for having me on your program. And I will say goodbye now and just listen.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, we'll see you next week, Monday. And I'm going to take a real quick break here, and then I'll be back on with the real Gene, it's the all Gene moment after this. And so 30 seconds, and I'll be right back. And welcome back. I'm on with Gene Zott right now, and we're going to talk about corruption in Michigan. There's a lot of it. It would be shocking to people. I've been kind of like beating up on Jocelyn Benson this morning, who is a traitor to this nation and should be treated as such for rigging the elections. And we have to go back. How dare she step up as governor of this state with a gross incompetence, threatening Americans that she's done, you know? It's like, I'm sorry, threaten me. I'm just gonna go berserk on you. I mean, she is a piece of work.
Well, I've got some election integrity things to talk about here in Macomb County, and it's actually going on across the state. Just recently, Don Brown, who is the commissioner, and he was the chairman of Macomb County Commissioners. And for those of you who don't know who a commissioner is, which is a lot of people, the commissioners in the county, they are really the holders of the purse strings of the county. That's probably their biggest job, is managing the budget. So it is an extremely important position. And he was in charge. And Macomb County has some big ticket items on going on right now, especially this $250 million jail. So back in November, Don Brown ran for re-election. Shortly after he won, he's been our commissioner for 30 years. He stepped down in December, announced it at a Board of Commissioner meeting, and shocked all the commissioners. They did not know. He is going to work for Candace Miller. So that leaves a vacancy in the commission seat. Now, he hasn't even started his new term, which is now a 4-year term. It used to be a 2-year term. Now it's 4. So they announced that they were going to do an appointment. This is what I'm going to talk about, is appointments. This is going on all over the state. I wish somebody would do some research on it. I'm going to tell you a couple different appointments that I know of. I'm sure there's more. The appointment process is that the 12 remaining commissioners that are not in District 1, not in Don's district, vote and decide on who is going to be District 1's new commissioner.
Really?
So the voice of the people is completely stripped, because the people just elected Don Brown. There was a primary in May and there was an election in November. Don Brown was voted in. So I put my name in the hat to be appointed. Now, I'm not doing this because I feel I had no expectation that I was going to get appointed. Matter of fact, I talked to some elected officials in the state and locally who told me that Don Brown already told them who he wanted. So, here we go again, where Macomb County moves around their elected officials and their newly elected officials like a chessboard. There were 15 applicants. I spent a month and a half studying county politics because I ran for the Michigan House. I was unsuccessful, but I thought, you know what? I'm interested. I want to know what's going on. It would be a special election or a short-term appointment until the special election. And it would give me a chance to really know this district, this northern district of Macomb County. The term like I said, the term prior to 2025 was 2 years. So the 12 commissioners voted on the replacement. The replacement is Ken Goyke. I don't know him. I don't have any issues with him. He's a prior state rep. There was another state rep that was in the running that I was told was the anointed one. When I arrived at the meeting last Thursday, Ken Goyke was sitting next to Candace Miller. So kind of thought that was kind of strange, because we kind of thought, me and a couple of the other applicants thought that maybe it was somebody else. Well, of course, the vote
they're going to get their friends in. And the thing of it is that because you're not establishment any more than I am, and we're going to tell the truth on this, you know, God forbid, should we be able to have an office we run for, you know,
right.
There's so many ways to rig this at the local level. It's just incredible. I mean, they actually fund the candidates through the parties. They fund the ones that the establishment wants in there. The rest of you,
it gets worse, Donna. It gets worse. So it was 8-4, and Ken Goyke was appointed. Okay, Governor Whitmer has put into place a remedy for what happens when somebody steps down midterm. There's special elections. They do it in May, and they can do it in November. The Macomb County Commissioners has decided to wait until the 2026 election.
What?
To have a special election. So I actually thought this appointment was going to be until May. And I was undecided whether I was even going to run in the special election. Matter of fact, people had called me and told me to put my name in there. Like, you'd be great. You're an accountant. You're a CPA. You'd be able to help, really be an active and knowledgeable person when it came to budget. So they're citing that elections are expensive. So this is what the state of Michigan, Jocelyn Benson, has done. We've made elections very expensive with 9 days of early voting. And, the absentee ballots going out, 45 days before the election. So now they're saying, it's too expensive for the 9 communities in Don Brown's district to have a special election. I spoke at the commission meeting after they had the appointment in the public commentary. And I sent you the article yesterday, and they picked it up and quoted me. And I said, it's expensive to have an election. It's expensive to not have an election. You stripped the voice of the people. You appointed somebody that you're not even from the district. So the people in District 1 didn't get a choice. Now we have Ken. Now, mark my word, right now, I am going to predict Ken Goyke will be in the newspaper over and over and over. He will be on their Facebook page. He will be on their Twitter between now and 2026, X. And they will be promoting him.
Well, same thing happened with Benson. Benson all of a sudden says she's going to run. She got media coverage all over the place.
Well, and the power of incumbency. So the 13 other, including me, candidates for the appointment, any of them that want to run are already at a disadvantage, because now this man, which he could be a great man, maybe he is the guy. He is going to have the power
if he doesn't step down.
Well, yeah, he'll have the power of the incumbency for a full 2 years. Now, that was the full term of a commissioner prior to 2000, this recent election. They just changed it to 4 years. So there should be a special election in May. The people should have a vote. I understand it's expensive, but this is how this has been going on. Corruption starts at the local level. They want somebody that goes along. They don't want somebody that's going to ask questions about this jail, about budget issues. We had money at that meeting to give a scholarship. We had money at that meeting to give $10,000 to some business during their Promote Small Business Week. We had money to spend $1 million on billboards for Mark Hackle, but we don't have money to have a special election, to have the voice of District 1 heard. It is insane. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it just happened in West Bloomfield. Same thing. The supervisor in West Bloomfield stepped down the day after he was elected. His board of trustees in West Bloomfield appointed one of their own trustees to be the new supervisor, and they are also waiting till 2026. They did not even consider the trustee that was, so the supervisor was Steve Kaplan. There was a guy named David Fleischer. He was his opponent in the primary. He wasn't even considered. The trustee that got appointed, Jonathan Warshay, voted for himself. And now he is the new supervisor of West Bloomfield, and he will be serving till 2026 with the same advantage that Ken Goyke has with media through the newspapers, through social media. So this is something that I want to call to attention, and I have one more example, and then we can talk about it. Did you know that Stan Grott was an appointee? He was appointed clerk in 2012, in January of 2012. Then he won the primary vote in the primary election, because there was an election just shortly after that. And he won by 420 votes in the primary election, but he counted the votes. So there's that.
Yeah. How do you even make that compute? You know, that's like Benson calculating or doing anything. Isn't there a Hatch Act violation with that too? If she doesn't step down while she's running?
I don't know about Benson, but I do know that all the corruption starts at the local level, and that local politics lately, in my opinion, they follow their agenda and are not thinking about what's best for the people. This jail in Macomb County is going to cost $250 million. And during my research, they already think they're over budget. They don't think they have enough money. I heard the word bond from a couple of the commissioners when I was interviewing them. They don't have a budget for how it's going to be run. This new jail, it's going to be like the Grand Hotel of jails. It's, like I said, $250 million. Now they're citing, well, we get county, state, and federal money. They get in COVID money for this jail. That's the other thing I want to point out.
How do they get COVID money for the jail? This is crazy.
It's a part of that infrastructure thing, I think.
Oh.
I think it was COVID money. I could be wrong, but I think it was COVID money. But what I want to point out is, and I pointed it out to the commissioners on Thursday, whenever you cite that you are using a grant from the state or the grant from the feds, it is still taxpayer money. It is not, because it didn't come from the county budget, doesn't make it any less of taxpayer money. And if you wouldn't spend your own money on it, you should not be spending the county money on it. You should not be spending money on it at all. And that is what's been going on. I hear that at Shelby Township Board meetings too. I heard Stathicus one time reference taxpayer money as fun, or federal money or state money as fun money. It is not fun money. It's all taxpayer money. Just because it's been filtered through, like, laundered through all the different departments at the federal and state level, doesn't make it any less our money. The government doesn't have any money. So I really hope that somebody picks up on this practice of appointments, because we need special elections. We do. We cannot. I predict there will be more Macomb County officials that will step down early, and then there'll be appointments to replace them, and there'll be long-term appointments.
Sounds like collusion. It really does.
It does.
You could never pull this off without a whole bunch of people colluding to place their candidates from outside of the district, and then not have an election to see that the people's
well, and I'll give you another example of what's been going on. So Gus Ganim, who is the new Macomb County GOP chair, he was appointed to the Macomb County Commissioners, to the seat in Warren, I believe it is. He was appointed. He was replacing a Democrat. So, I don't want to get into, oh, good, they put a Republican in a Democrat seat. What if it was a Democrat controlled commission and they put a Democrat in Don Brown's district, which is a red district? If it was a Democrat controlled district, they could have put a Democrat up in there for a full 2 years and totally changed the landscape of that district. And one of the Democrats that spoke was an applicant. He said he wants more, he says we need more housing in the district. He wants more multifamily housing. If you drive through District 1, it's farms. It's beautiful, and it's houses on bigger lots. It's a very pretty district. Those people don't want apartment buildings everywhere. They just don't. So it's such a dangerous practice. Now, Gus Ganim did lose the general election. They put a Democrat back in that seat. I guess as a Republican, you want a Republican controlled, but guess what? A lot of these commissions, a lot of these board of trustees, city council, they're acting as uniparty. They are. You watch the vote. You think, oh, we're going to vote on something, and there's 13 people, and it's 13-0 every time, winning. Pass 13-0, pass 13-0. Shelby Township, pass 7-0. And they cite it as unifying. I cite it as there's not conversation, there's not debate, which is healthy in a functioning government. It's healthy. Bring up your concerns. Tell the people why you aren't voting. Just don't hit the button to make all your friends happy. And I printed off what the Macomb County Charter says about vacancies.
Okay. If the vacancy is filled
a vacancy shall be filled by appointment of a registered and qualified elector of the district in which she has been appointed. So at least it has to be someone from the district within 30 days by the majority of the commissioners. The appointee shall take office upon filing the oath of office. Okay, that just happened. If the vacancy is filled in the first year of the term, the appointee shall serve until a successor is elected in a special election called by the commission in accordance with law. Okay. Do you think that should be interpreted as we can wait 2 years?
Absolutely not.
That's how the Board of Commissioners is interpreting Section 4.8.3 in the Macomb County Charter, that they can wait 2 years.
So I really think we need to get a bunch of people that want to work forward and do some legal or quasi-legal work and just go after these people and hold them accountable. Really, I think the best way to do it would be personally hold them accountable and sue them on a personal level for not following law. I mean, that absolutely, if this came from outside of the district, this has nothing to do with the will of the people.
Yeah, and it can happen in any county district out there. If they have a similar charter and they like their commission and they want to keep it, unified, then we have people step down right after getting elected and then do an appointment and then have that person is now in there. A lot of people think that's what's going to happen with Tony Wickersham, that he is going to step down right after he completes the first 2 years of this term, and they will appoint somebody to fill Tony Wickersham's spot, and then that person will have the power of the incumbency till the end of the term. Because just like Doug Wozniak, who I ran against, Tony Wickersham also was whispering about retiring and then didn't. So they have who they want in office. I do hope that Ken Goyke is going to serve us well for the next 2 years. I just don't like how this is done. I think he should have been elected by the voice of the people.
Well, if he doesn't step down or make sure that that's done, then we know that he's not a good person, because he anytime that you subvert the will of the people or the people's voice, it is not just wrong, it's criminal.
Well, and unfortunately, Dad, most people don't even know this happened. They really don't. Because when Don Brown stepped down, there was an article in the Macomb Daily. There was a post on Facebook. And then when they were putting out for applicants for the vacancy, just to put on Macomb Daily, a post on Facebook. And then again, this recent article with when I sent you with the appointee, an article. So the people of District 1, Don Brown even said at the commissioners meeting, people are still calling me. They still think I'm the commissioner. Like, they don't know. How would they know in this day and age? The news media on, if you watch 2, 4, or 7 or in Detroit, which is CBS, NBC, or ABC, they're not going to report on some commissioner stepping down. They're not going to report on some supervisor stepping down. So you're going to rely on the Macomb Daily, which puts one article. How many people, the subscription rates are so down. I mean, these papers are just, we have to figure out a better way to inform the voters. I know this kind of platform is what they're saying is how we're going to meet candidates and how we're going to be selecting our elected officials in the future. But based on what's happening now.
You know what it is? It's like it takes so much time to keep up on everything, and it's by design that as we work as just normal everyday Americans, we don't have time to aggregate that information, which they should be doing for us as part of their jobs to keep us informed. If they can't do their jobs and try to help the people stay on top of it, and I'll give it, we've got responsibility to do that too. If they're not doing it, then a group of people need to get together and form like a group. It doesn't have to be anything formal even, and say, you know what, we're going to take this upon ourselves and let everybody know, and get on the podcast like this one or other podcasts to get the word out there and promote it so that they do know what's going on. I think we just have to think about doing things in a different way, because they certainly are not representing us. They have no interest in representing us. They only have interest in like protecting their own interest and self-enrichment. Quite honestly, I've just not seen, people in office right now actually doing their jobs. Even now, if they were, they'd be screaming about that 2020 election and holding people accountable. If we don't clean this nest of vipers out, as you well put it, we can change the laws, we can change the processes, we can change the policies, but they're just going to come back and go around them and figure out another way to cheat. I remember years ago, I was writing a non-disclosure for a system that I created, and I was pretty young at the time. And there's all a bunch of older guys that are in there, all white hair and such, and I'm probably in my early 30s, and I had written this out for a contract. And the one guy, I'll never forget this. He looked at me and he goes, "Yeah, I'll sign whatever you have. He goes, "I can get out of anything." So they weren't about doing the right thing or representing or being fair. They're liars, cheats, and thieves, which is when I approached, running for governor, that's what I thought they were. And that's what most of them are.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, and, I also follow local politics, and this is another thing I want to tell your listeners. You really should be attending, some local board meetings. Just, you don't have to go to everyone. You can even watch them online now. So it's not even like you have to, turn off the Netflix one night, watch an hour worth of a board meeting. So Shelby Township, I went to a board meeting a couple of months ago, and sure enough, they were voting. They had 3 rezoning requests. Okay. And they bring up, the person from the zoning department, and she gives her recommendation based on what the township's master plan is. And so she says, yes, no, this doesn't fit. We shouldn't rezone it. Or yes, it's not a big deal if we rezone it. So she gets up, and the first 2, the township trustees agreed with her 100%. The third one, she said, I do not recommend this. It does not fit with our master plan. One of the guys that was requesting it got up, and he was speaking, and he said, yeah, we all know 26 Mile Road is going to be the new M59 in Shelby Township. Okay. To me, that sounds terrible. Okay. I live at 25 in Van Dyke. The thought that 26 Mile is going to turn into M59 sounds horrible to me. So the vote comes and it passes. So I go home and do some homework. Just about every single one of those trustees on that board took money from the petitioner.
That's not surprising. And I bet you if you look just like Goshen, that they own land in that area too. I'll bet you that there's some connections there that you should look at, because that's how they do business. They will literally give themselves the advantage and determine an entire area so they can make money off of it. I saw it here in Byron Township when we had a rezoning come up, that every single person that attended that had a question. They never addressed the questions. They never did anything. And they gave the benefit to the outside developer. And of course, I'm not going to shut up. I just stood up and I said, what difference is this? Or how is this any different than selling land to China? You've got foreign investors here, being financed by foreign money. You just sold out to foreign money and foreign investors on a local level. So I would look to see if they own land in that area, or if there's other connections.
Well, and so let's talk about solutions for both things I talked about. So when I was at the commissioner meeting, I said, all right, if it's too expensive and it's going to be too much of a burden on our local communities, except for that makes no sense to me, because we have a clerk and that's one of their duties is to run elections. So they can only do it every 2 years. I mean, that's what they're supposed to do, is run elections. But all right, let's say we have to buy that argument. Why can't the elected precinct delegates in his district vote on a commissioner replacement? Why is it 12 people from outside the district? I know that's not going to happen. That's kind of utopian, but that would ultimately, the best thing would be to hold a special election. And if that's not the place, let the Republican precinct delegates that were elected to represent the Republicans in their community make the choice of the new commissioner. And as far as what happened in Shelby Township with this zoning thing, I really believe that if you're an honorable elected official, you should have not voted if you took money from the petitioner. You should not vote. You should recuse yourself. You should say, I took money from this guy. He's a nice guy. I like him, but I shouldn't vote. And maybe that leaves one person to vote, or maybe it just leaves it up to the zoning person that just said, no, don't do it. But the corruption at local level, it's just seeping in. It's just seeping in, and people don't know about it. It's just really sad. But what you were just talking about with land, I don't know if you want to talk about a different topic, but I would love to talk about the DNA.
It's your time, so whatever you want to talk about is fine. Okay,
so let's talk about another form of Whitmer getting her paws all over Michigan to try to advance her green energy policy and position herself with all these large foreign and out-of-state companies to give her money if she decides to run for president. God help us all in 4 years.
God help us all. I was going to say that too. God help us all.
Okay. The DNR. As of September 1st, 2023, the Michigan Department of Natural Resources manages approximately 4.6 million acres of public lands. This includes state forests, parks, recreation areas, water access sites, and wildlife areas. Additionally, the DNR oversees 6.4 million acres of mineral rights. These lands are managed for a variety of purposes, including conservation, recreation, resource extraction, contributing significantly to Michigan's environmental health and economy.
They lie, they lie.
Do you see anywhere in this statement that means clearing 400 acres to put in a solar farm? But more recently, we have a militia mall being built in the Grayling area. And I don't know if you know about this, but we have a foreign company that is going to get $3.5 million from the state of Michigan, a 15-year tax break, and the Michigan Department of Transportation, which we don't have any money for the roads, is going to build a special road from I-75 to this munitions factory outside of Grayling. And if you go to Traverse City, you know right where it is. It's right off 4 Mile. The Michigan Department of Transportation is going to build a road for them. And they're going to build this munitions testing and factory for bombs and missiles on 380 acres of DNR land.
In their public-private partnerships.
Okay. public participation in this project did not occur until September of 2024. No public hearings and a refusal to consider taxpayer and residents. The nearby communities rely on hunting, fishing, canoeing, and kayaking and hiking. So now we're going to have bombs tested, and it's right near the Asabo River. It is, you know what, Governor Whitmer? Why don't you put this up in Elk Rapids next to your property? There's a lot of land up there, isn't there?
How about this? She needs to go to Gitmo, so let's make that her property, and then we can figure out the rest of it after that. You know, that's the only property that she should be setting foot on right now, because she's a traitor.
Yeah, Camp Grayling is there's a Facebook group called Camp Grayling Expansion Save Our Public Land. I joined the group even though I'm not from Grayling, but I owned a home in northern Michigan, in Rapid City, which is near Elk Rapids. I owned that home for 18 years. We drove through this Grayling area, which is absolutely beautiful. It's all wooded, it's forest. There is Camp Grayling up there, which you can't even tell there's this military training area up there. They probably keep it pretty wooded. I've never been inside because I'm not, in the military, but it seems to be okay to have that Camp Grayling there, but I don't know. But now they want to put this munitions factory. The article that was in the Detroit Free Press also cited that Governor Whitmer has been allowing other companies to be doing testing and other sorts of military work in that area at a well below market price for doing it.
Well, I can tell you, I was up at Camp Grayling, and I spent a decent amount of time in there so that I was in the officers club for quite a while, and we were going over documents and such. And I can tell you what exactly was happening up there. There was no military guarding the base at all. It was DK Security, who is a Kentwood-based company. They were guarding the base and the airfield. There was no military guarding that whatsoever. And they work for, say, like the DeVos's at the Van Andel Arena and such. You'll see DK all over the place. They were the ones that were guarding the base. And not only that, I saw so much clear cutting up there. The only other people that were on that base was a massive amount of DNR employees, which should be very disturbing. And they're not like the nicest people you want to meet. They're kind of like they've got a little bit of a God complex to them because they've got nothing to stop them. And then the rest of the employees that were up there were State Department. And that was about it. I did not see any military people that were there other than in that category. And then I dug down on DK, and lo and behold, they have offices, and I believe 35 different subdomain offices across the United States. And one of them is back on a two-track by the Grand Canyon. And I did an aerial evaluation of that, which was really interesting, on a two-track in the middle of nowhere. And they've got a big building out there that backs up to a gorge and such. So my question is what is the DNR actually doing in these lands and waterways? It would be really, really not a surprising thing to me if they were using them to traffic things, people in the state of Michigan, as well as destroy our natural resources. But nobody's asking that question except for possibly Donna Brandenburg and expecting an answer. I think all of us should be very concerned about this. And where's the receipts for all of these minerals and logging? They clear cut, because I saw it. They did not do any restoration. We've got stumps. We've got, I don't even know how many acres up there that they clear cut. It looks like an absolute scarred up, trashed area. And where's the receipts?
Do you think that was in preparation for this $75 million munitions factory that is it's Saab that's doing it. It's a foreign company that's doing it. And we're giving $3.5 million to Saab.
It's all over the place. Why are we paying this corporation at all? If a corporation is out there, a company, they need to, in fair market, without corporate or without government welfare, corporate welfare coming from the government. This is so wrong to prop up these companies, not just the foreign companies, but the corporations within the United States.
And build them a road.
Yeah.
And build them a road.
Yep.
And then go on and have a press conference shortly after this article comes out and say, we need to raise taxes in the state of Michigan to pay for the roads.
Yeah. And
you ran on fixing the roads. You've got money. There's billions of dollars in that SOAR fund. And I don't even know if there's any other states that do it. I want to say that there's very few states that have the SOAR fund. And our SOAR fund in the state of Michigan has been an incredible failure. This munitions factory in Grayling promises is estimating 70 jobs, not promising, estimating. They aren't held to that. And they can bring in their own people. They can bring their own people in. Yeah, they don't need.
They're selling our country, and they're all traitors. They need to be removed, every one of them, and prosecuted for treason for what they've done for this. And when I talked earlier about President Trump getting in office, I was supporting him because he was robbed of his office in 2020 just based on the law. Besides the fact that I like some of his policies, but he was robbed in 2020 and deprived of his office because they broke the law. And that's why I supported him. That's the main reason why I supported him. But I do like his policies. These people they've broken the law. And until we get them all cleaned out, there's no victory lap. Because I don't care what we see right now until the criminals are rounded up and taken to Gitmo on a one-way trip to a bright, sunny place, appointment made with God Almighty. We're going to have them come right back in and figure out how to cheat the system in another way. And it's a sad reality. They're going to do it on the local level, and that's how they're going to do it. While we're looking over here at shiny things, they're taking the country down in the local levels.
Well, and Governor Whitmer is using the DNR. She's using She's using these other departments to do it. So this isn't going through the House unless it has to go through House Appropriations. I know the SOAR fund, just recently, there was a $50 million project that got tabled up in the UP. I don't know if you were familiar with the Copperwood mine. We were going to give $50 million to a Canadian company to mine copper right on the shores up there, right next to the Porcupine Mountains. Incredibly, the environmentalists got involved and said, wait, what are you doing? Time out. We don't want a copper mine on the shores of our Great Lakes. There's so much risk to environmental problems, and it's just right on the edge of the Porcupine Mountains. What are you doing? And they did an incredible job of petitioning. When they dug down deep into it, the Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee that had proposed this project, his wife was working for the copper mine as a lobbyist. What do you think the bonus is for your wife if she gets $50 million for the company that she's representing? What do you think that bonus is?
That she's going to get a big payoff for inking that deal. Somebody needs to get involved in that right now and investigate them and start prosecuting them immediately. If we had sheriffs that were doing their job, which a lot of them aren't, and I hate to say it, the worst one on the state that I talked to was Wickersham. Was right on the top of my list as the worst sheriff that I interviewed in the state of Michigan when I was running for governor. And if they were doing their jobs, they would be going after this sort of thing and saying, hold on a minute, this is absolute nonsense. There's conflict of interest all over the place, and start investigating and prosecuting them.
Yeah. Well, big money talks, but we just have to keep I know we keep saying this, we have to keep educating people. We have to stay informed. We have to stay educated. We have to watch what they're doing. I'm semi-retired. I don't have to be reading all these articles and posting and researching, same as you. You don't need it, but you're doing it because you love this country. I love the state of Michigan. I don't want Northern Michigan turned into a military mall. I don't. It's so beautiful up there. I've spent so much of my kids and I and my husband, we've spent so much of our time up there. It just sounds horrible. And the UP, that is our little gem. What are we doing? Why are we trying to? We can promote the tourism, get the people to, that's what we keep talking about, mental health and getting outside in nature. And now we're going to destroy our nature that we have in this great state. No. solar panels, people need to realize the mining for those solar panels that's being done by children. I mean, and we have a D rating in the state of Michigan on solar panels. Windmills, yeah, we have a D rating. I don't know if you knew that.
Solar panels in the second darkest state in the nation, which is Michigan. This is insanity.
Well, and you go out to Colorado and they have them along the freeway. So if they actually work, because Colorado is a very sunny state. So if they actually work, I guess that's a good place to put them because, but it's already ugly because it's near the freeway in the city. But Michigan, we're going to clear property right outside of Gaylord to do it. What are we doing? What are we doing?
It's crazy. It's insanity.
Yeah. But whether I, even though I was unsuccessful in getting into the House, I feel like I still have a voice, and I'm still motivated to keep talking about this and fighting for the taxpayer in Michigan. It's so important. We are wasting a lot of money, and I'm a conservative, a fiscal conservative, and I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Nobody should like that we're wasting this money. And one of the things that the Trump administration needs to get on right now is this newcomers program. I haven't checked the Michigan website, but I hope it's taken down, where we pay people to take people in from the border. I don't know if I'm sure you're familiar with this program that Whitmer had on her website. When I asked a certain senator friend of mine about it, he said, guess what, Jean, you don't even have to be a legal, U.S. citizen to get the money from the state of Michigan that's funneled through the federal government to participate in this program. So you can come to this country illegally, and then you can make money from the taxpayers by housing more people that are coming to the country illegally. So I'm hoping that program is taken down. I'm going to follow up on that, and I'm certainly going to send it to John James and Lisa McLean.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Well, I said that right out loud, didn't I? Good luck with that. I'm going to read you something I thought was really interesting. U.S. Code, and I read this earlier today because we were talking about that with the illegal invasion and the companies and the people that participated in taking money, including Catholic services, Lutheran services, or Catholic charities, Lutheran services, on and on and on. There's a whole bunch of these people that were involved in human trafficking and taking the money for it. But it also involved the people that you're talking about that took rent money to help harbor the illegals. 8 U.S. Code 132, for any person who encourages or induces an alien to come to, enter, or reside in the United States, knowing or in reckless disregard for the fact that such coming to, entry, or residence is or will be in violation of the law, shall be punished as provided, in prison for not more than 5 years. In the case of the violation in which the offense was done for the purpose of commercial or financial gain, in person or in prison for not more than 10 years. We're talking Catholic services and Lutheran services. We're talking to you right now. In the case of violation during retaliation, or in the case of violation during and in relation to which a person causes serious bodily injury to or places in jeopardy the life of any persons imprisoned not more than 20 years. Judges, we're talking to you. And the ones that let them out, in the case of a violation resulting in death of any person, be punished by death or imprisoned for any term of years or for life. The legislature, we're talking to you right now because they didn't stop it. And so right now we have got a whole bunch of lawbreakers that are within the system who are in violation of that code. And it goes from top to bottom. Anybody that housed them in their home and took the money in their home, they were absolutely in collusion and helping to break the law and are in violation of that U.S. code. They're all guilty. And until we clean these rats out, dump them squarely off on Gitmo, watch their justice take place before our very eyes, we're going to continue to have the same problem, in my opinion. But I'm probably a little bit more unwavering with things and issues of treason, than a lot of people are.
Well, I have to tell you the experience. I have a relative that just went through the experience of her husband being able to be here legally. So I have a niece, and she was doing a bike tour in France and the UK. She met a man in Wales just went to a pub one night and she started talking to this guy, and literally they fell in love, and they started doing the back and forth thing for a couple years where he would come here for a little bit. She lives in Chicago, and then he would go there, or she would go there for a little bit. And they got married a year ago. And under the spousal visa application, now that they're married, he can stay here. He's not under a tourist entry anymore. He can stay here, but he is not allowed to work until they process his green card, which can take months to years. Okay, what are we doing? We're going to tell somebody, okay, you're coming into this country legally. You know, he's from Wales, and we're going to process the paperwork, but you can't even hold a job. You can't do anything. Like, that makes no sense. We also have been doing that for 25 years. When I was working as a controller in a produce company, we had employees that were in our employ under fake Social Security numbers. Back then, we didn't know, because you didn't know until you filed the W-2s, and then you'd get rejects. So ICE came in a couple of times, and they would tell us, oh, you've got to fire these people. You have to let them go. They didn't take them. They just tell us you got to let them go. And then 6 months later, they'd come back with a different Social Security number and say they were legal. It's not till recently that now they have it where you can check it online, but still there's no consequences at all. So here we have people that have been in this country illegally for 20, 30, 40 years, whatever. And they have to work underground, and that's where the human trafficking comes in. I have a big issue with the fact that we have these people that have been here forever, that have had children and, you know, grandchildren now. And those people are here, and we have allowed them to work illegally, and we have not remedied that situation. They should have been told, if you want to work, this is the thing, and we will work on you can apply to be here legally. But even if you can't be a U.S. citizen, why did we do that? Why in the world did we allow this? We encouraged employers to treat people like human trafficking because they're afraid. Like, if you had somebody working for you, and let's say I'm a bad actor and I have somebody that comes in and is going to work in my home, and they don't like the working conditions. I don't give them time off. I don't even pay a minimum wage. Who are they going to complain to? I, as the employer, can totally abuse this person, and they have no remedy. That is what we've done. That's wrong too. That's wrong too. We have failed. We've failed these people. We have failed the country. The administration, this last administration, has failed us to no end. All those people that came under this last administration, they need to go back. They need to go back.
All the H-1B visas, the nonsense for the H-1B visas is basically indentured servitude, because they will post the jobs for like $200,000 jobs. They get them over here and maybe pay them $40 an hour, which is about an $80,000 job. And the people that are recruiting them and bringing them into the nation are making millions and millions of dollars. These people cannot leave the job that they're in for 4 to 5 years. So they're stuck. They're indentured servants. And the question is if they were, we all know that they could probably stay in the country that they are in and still do the work. This has been going on for years, correct? They will hire them as a consultant or somebody in another country. But the reason why they bring them here under that visa is to skim millions off the top for these body shops who are literally doing work recruiting, but it's really not. It's human trafficking. And these people are stuck. There's no way out. And the companies make more than the employees do. And they're not bringing over the best people. They're not bringing over the high-tech jobs exclusively. Some of them are janitors. Some of them are waitresses. Some of them are that. They don't really care. They're bringing it over to take that money off the top of what they make. And I'm going to say it, this is going to be unpopular. When you look at the IQ, I think the average IQ in India is about 70. And so when we look at that sort of thing, I'm not saying that the people that are coming over are low IQ, but what I'm saying is that we need to really look at this for what it is, instead of saying, you know, how many times have we heard, oh, Indians are so smart and blah, blah, blah. You know what? I think that's really super racist, because why are they giving them an advantage over Americans and saying Americans are dumb, so we got to go overseas to import Indian workers for the this is like so misleading and un-American. I can't even believe it. We can find
Well, we have the dumbing down of our education system right now, especially at the college level, because we are coddling them. Do you think in China or India, if you went to college, that you would take some of the classes that our universities offer right now that are subsidized by the federal and state governments?
Yeah. And then they
would not.
Something like gender studies or something like that.
Yeah. And then they can't find a job. Oh yeah. And the coddling continues in Lansing. I just heard today that they are opening a clothing, closet to help young people that are working in Lansing get clothes so that they can look more professional.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, do you know what really happens? And this is true. Here's an on the ground story. What happens when you go into a lot of places I've been, when I've looked at housing and been in housing, quite often there's somebody in there. They'll have one bedroom and they go to the churches and they get new clothes, but they don't necessarily always wash. So they throw everything into this room and it'll be packed from floor to ceiling. It is the nastiest smelling thing you've ever smelled in your entire life. And when somebody comes in to either take over a property like that and run it the way probably it should be run, the whole amount of it gets thrown out because it's not salvageable at that point in time. So
don't get me started on Section 8 housing. Section 8 housing has been on hold. I don't know if you're aware of this. It has been on hold because of all the money we were giving to migrant housing. So my husband and I, we serve the poor in Detroit, and I've met people that have been on waiting lists for months and months and months. And yeah.
The point being is that the whole system is based on people taking money away from real people, no real help being given. And there's always an excuse. There's always an excuse for not being there to help people. That's what this is all about. Yeah. And that's my big beef with the entire thing. I agree. We're commissioned, by God to help people out and such, but we want to make sure that it's responsibly run and not just an excuse for non-performance or not just an excuse for taking money. And I agree with you with that. So, well, I appreciate you coming on today. There was a lot of great issues.
Yeah. I'm so glad.
Mine. That was great.
I hope that, I'm going to send my information to some election integrity organizations and maybe the Mackinac Center for Public Policy. They do a lot of good work too. Yeah. They bring light to the spending. Like they're my go-to people and to the studies about how effective certain government programs are. Like I said, a lot of people think these programs that Governor Whitmer is spending billions of dollars on are working. They're not. I think the job promises that these companies give are like 9 or 10%. Like if they say they're going to, make 100 jobs in our state, it's like they bring us 10. So we have to keep our eyes open, our ears open, and just like I said, I read something today. And I thought, this is perfect for us. The tongue has the power of life and death. That's Proverbs 18:21. So let's bring light and let's bring life. So
I love that. We need to get this nation back to work again and give the advantage to Americans, not everybody else playing money fetty everywhere.
Yes.
Ignoring our own people. We have impoverished our own people so that we're working so hard just to keep our heads above water that we can't fight those issues because they've kept us busy with just survival, which is unfortunate. Right. But let's say a prayer, Jean, and then we'll go on to our day. But you can always come on, Amy, if you want to keep digging stuff up. I would actually love some quasi legal type stuff with you, because I think that would be really interesting. So. Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and pray, and then we'll go on to our day. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for Jean and all the wonderful people out there like Vicky who have done just a tremendous amount of research and have put their time and their effort into educating all of us as we go along this path of actually finding out what's going on. We didn't know. We didn't know for a very long time with the wars and with the propaganda that's out there, which were only put in place to hurt people. We don't want any part of this anymore. We want to follow you. We want to live at peace with each other in a lawful society where everyone's rights are protected, not just taking advantage of other people just because we can. We ask that you would speak to people's hearts, help them to stand with honor and integrity for the right thing, not just because they can get away with it, that policy would stop, but that we would do the right thing in a moral and ethical way, serving you in this world, serving serving people, your creation, whatever it is that you put in our hearts to do, to work for your kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. Help us to speak words of life today, truth and life, and see people who are in need and be willing to step up for the call. Whatever it is that you ask us to do, we're willing to do by your power and your strength, and to your glory. We lay all things at your feet, because any good that's found in us is only from you, and in the sacrifice that you made with Jesus Christ for us. We thank you so much, and we accept your gift of salvation. We thank you so much for being with us and walking with us. Give us the feet to walk the path that you lay ahead of us. You've been a great friend to us, and we want to be a friend to you. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, there we go,
All
boys
right.
and girls. At that time of the show, we go to ding, 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 go to Brandenburg for Governor. Here we go, tongue twisted. BrandenburgForGovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I'd like to talk to President Donald Trump in cowboy boots about this little situation, because I'm not going to concede the 2022 election until we write this and we go back and we write the 2020 election. We have to do this. We can't just go la-di freaking da. We're just going to go forward and hopefully hope for the best. It doesn't work that way. So we need to continue to fight and hold the line on this. So with that said, God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. You know,
right.
Be the example here. If you don't have one, it's up to you to be the example and be one. Set the standard for those around you and don't waver. So we'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow I have John Tater on for Tater Tuesdays, and we'll be going through the Constitution and all things lawful. Thanks for being on today, Jean. You have a great day.
God bless you.
God bless you. Bye-bye.